In a quiet California suburb, a 19-year-old girl named Emma sat on her broken electric wheelchair, watching the world move while she stayed still. But when a young mechanic named Jake saw her struggle, he decided to do the impossible. What started as a broken chair soon turned into a symbol of hope and freedom. This is the story of how one man's hands rebuilt not just a machine, but a dream. Like, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's get started! Emma sat on the cracked driveway, her gaze fixed on the worn electric wheelchair that had been her companion for years. Its battery barely held a charge, the wheels squeaked painfully, and a loose joystick made every movement unpredictable. At 19, she longed for freedom, for the ability to move without worry, but each attempt at independence ended in frustration. The sun was beginning to dip behind the suburban houses of California, casting long shadows across the street. She hugged her knees, letting out a quiet sigh. Her parents had tried to cheer her up, but even their optimism couldn't erase her disappointment. Across town, in a garage cluttered with tools, old engines and scattered parts, Jake, a 25-year-old mechanic, was elbow-deep in an engine rebuild. He was tall, with grease-streaked hands and a focused expression, accustomed to taking broken machines and breathing new life into them. A friend had called earlier describing Emma's situation, and something about it sparked a determination in him. Jake loved challenges, and this one seemed different. Not just a repair job, but a chance to create something truly extraordinary. He wiped his hands on a rag and leaned back, imagining the possibilities. Meanwhile, Emma's frustration grew. She pressed the joystick tentatively, trying to move forward, only to have the wheelchair jerk slightly to the left. The familiar disappointment tightened in her chest. She remembered the times she had dreamed of racing down the street, visiting the park alone, or simply navigating the neighborhood without assistance. The broken wheelchair felt like a symbol of her limitations. Her parents came out to check on her, their faces etched with concern. "Maybe tomorrow we can try a different repair shop," her mother said softly. Emma nodded, but inside, hope was waning. Back in the garage, Jake spread out blueprints and sketches. He wasn't planning to merely fix the wheelchair. He envisioned something revolutionary. Lightweight aluminum frames, high-speed motors, shock absorbers, even LED accents. He wanted Emma to feel the thrill of movement again, the sense of speed and control she had been denied. He began disassembling a scrap wheelchair, inspecting every wire and component. His mind raced with ideas, imagining the transformation from a slow, faltering device into a mini supercar. It was ambitious, risky, and exactly what excited him about mechanics. This wasn't just about tools, it was about giving someone freedom. As the evening grew darker, Emma's thoughts wandered to Jake, the mechanic she had never met. She wondered what someone like him could possibly do with her broken wheelchair. Could it really become more than a simple mobility aid? Her imagination flickered with hope, mixed with skepticism. She remembered stories of inventors and tinkerers who had changed lives with ingenuity, and a tiny spark ignited inside her. Maybe, just maybe, someone out there could make the impossible possible. She hugged her blanket tighter, watching the sky turn deep blue, filled with the first stars of night. Jake worked tirelessly, his hands moving with precision and confidence. Each part he replaced or reinforced was chosen carefully, every wire measured and connected with care. He wasn't just building a machine, he was crafting an experience. As hours passed, the wheelchair slowly transformed before his eyes. The frame became sleeker, stronger. Motors designed for drones replaced the old, sluggish engine. He added custom tires that could glide smoothly over concrete, grass, or pavement. Tiny details like LED accents and subtle metallic streaks began to hint at the masterpiece it would soon become. This was no ordinary repair. Meanwhile, Emma finally gave up on moving the wheelchair herself and leaned back against the porch. The neighborhood was quiet, save for distant cars and the chirping of crickets. She remembered the sense of helplessness she often felt, confined to her small world. Her dreams of racing down streets and feeling wind on her face seemed distant and unreachable. But deep down, she refused to give up completely. Somewhere, a spark of curiosity remained. What if something miraculous could happen? What if tomorrow her world could change? She closed her eyes and let herself imagine the possibilities. Hours later, Jake finally stepped back, wiping sweat and grease from his brow. He surveyed the transformation with satisfaction. The old broken wheelchair was unrecognizable. Its new frame gleamed under the dim garage light, the motor hummed softly, and the joystick responded with perfect precision. Jake smiled, knowing this creation would give someone more than mobility. It would give freedom, excitement, and joy. He couldn't wait to see Emma's reaction. For him, this was more than a mechanical challenge. It was an opportunity to change a life in a way that went beyond anything he had done before. The next morning, Emma stepped outside, her curiosity piqued by the faint, almost imperceptible roar from Jake's garage. She squinted as the garage door opened, revealing the transformed wheelchair. It glistened in the sunlight, more like a mini supercar than a simple mobility device. Emma froze, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. Her jaw dropped, and her heart raced with a mix of disbelief and excitement. Jake stood nearby, hands on his hips, his expression calm but expectant. "Ready to try?" he asked, a hint of mischief in his voice. Emma nodded slowly, speechless. As she approached, her hand trembled slightly as she gripped the joystick. The wheelchair responded immediately, smooth, silent, and powerful. Emma couldn't contain her laughter, a sound that had been rare in recent months. She zoomed across the driveway, weaving carefully between cones Jake had set up, each turn precise and exhilarating. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sadness, but from the pure joy of rediscovering independence. For the first time in years, Emma felt the thrill of movement, the wind brushing her hair, and the possibility of freedom. The broken wheelchair was no more. It was reborn. Emma slowed to a stop, her smile wide and radiant. She turned to Jake, eyes shining with gratitude and awe. "I can't believe this. I never imagined anything like it," she whispered. Jake shrugged modestly, his expression humble. "Just doing my part," he said. But deep down, he knew this was more than just fixing a machine. It was changing a life. Emma felt a surge of hope she hadn't known in years. And for Jake, seeing her joy was more rewarding than any paycheck or recognition. Together, they had created something extraordinary. Emma's hands gripped the joystick with growing confidence, her pulse quickening as the mini supercar wheelchair responded instantly to every movement. The smooth acceleration, precise turns, and powerful motor thrilled her in ways she had only dreamed of. Jake had outdone himself. The old, broken wheelchair was unrecognizable. It now carried the elegance and spirit of a racing vehicle. Emma zipped around the driveway, laughter spilling into the crisp California morning air. She felt like a bird released from a cage, the constraints of her old wheelchair replaced with exhilaration. Every twist and turn brought a surge of joy and freedom she hadn't felt in years. Jake watched from a safe distance, arms crossed but eyes gleaming with pride. He had tested every function repeatedly in his garage, but seeing Emma maneuver with such confidence was another level of satisfaction. He had carefully balanced speed, safety, and aesthetics, ensuring the wheelchair would handle urban streets and parks effortlessly. The lightweight aluminum frame, reinforced with shock absorbers, made it nimble and responsive. He had even installed subtle LED strips that highlighted the sleek contours without being flashy. Jake's creativity had transformed a medical necessity into a masterpiece of mobility engineering, blending function and fun seamlessly. Emma's excitement grew as she explored the limits of her new wheelchair. She drove up the gentle slope of her driveway and coasted down smoothly, marveling at the control she had over every movement. The tires gripped the concrete firmly, yet glided effortlessly over small cracks and pebbles. Jake had installed a quiet motor with impressive torque, giving Emma acceleration she could feel but also control. She circled the front yard, testing turns, braking, and reversing with precision. Each maneuver reinforced a sense of independence she hadn't experienced in years. The world felt open again, inviting her to move freely and confidently, no longer restricted by the limitations of her old wheelchair. Jake called out suggestions, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "Try shifting slightly left before the next curve. See how it handles." Emma followed instructions, and the wheelchair responded flawlessly. She began to push her boundaries, weaving around makeshift cones, spinning slightly in controlled circles, and then pausing to catch her breath. Jake moved closer, examining her technique and offering tips that improved control and efficiency. The collaboration between mechanic and rider created a unique rhythm, each learning from the other. For Jake, watching Emma rediscover movement was profoundly rewarding, a reminder that engineering could truly impact lives beyond the physical repair of machines. After a while, Jake invited Emma to try the additional features he had secretly installed. Small, responsive suspension adjustments allowed the wheelchair to glide over grass without slowing, and the joystick had a turbo mode that amplified speed slightly for short bursts. Emma hesitated at first, but then activated the feature. The thrill was instantaneous, her laughter echoing down the suburban street. Neighbors peeked over fences, curious at the sight of a sleek electric wheelchair zipping effortlessly around the yard. Emma felt a new sense of confidence. She was no longer just a girl bound to a mobility aid, but a young woman in control of a powerful, unique machine that reflected her energy and spirit. The transformation wasn't purely functional. It had emotional significance. Emma realized she could now attend school, visit friends, and explore her neighborhood without fear of breakdowns or obstacles. Every limitation she had once felt seemed to dissolve. Jake had understood her needs, not only mechanically, but psychologically, crafting a machine that restored not just movement, but self-assurance. Emma's parents arrived and watched in awe as she demonstrated the capabilities of the wheelchair. Their initial concern melted into admiration and relief. Tears welled in Emma's mother's eyes as she realized her daughter's independence had returned, stronger and more exhilarating than ever. Jake continued refining the wheelchair, explaining each modification. He showed Emma how to adjust suspension, calibrate speed settings, and maintain battery health. His instructions were patient, detailed, and practical, empowering Emma to understand her machine beyond basic operation. Emma absorbed every detail, her excitement blending with determination. She began imagining adventures, park trails, beach visits, and local events she had missed before. The wheelchair wasn't just a replacement for what she had lost. It was an upgrade, a symbol of empowerment, and a bridge to experiences previously out of reach. Her imagination expanded as she envisioned the possibilities. As the morning transitioned into afternoon, Emma tested her newfound freedom in the neighborhood streets. She maneuvered around trees, mailbox posts, and driveways, learning the responsiveness of her mini supercar wheelchair. Each success reinforced her independence and boosted her confidence. Jake followed closely, observing her adjustments and suggesting fine tweaks. The community watched in amazement, with neighbors stopping to admire the ingenuity and care that had gone into the project. Some even offered applause as Emma completed her trial laps, grinning from ear to ear. Jake and Emma shared a proud glance, both aware that this machine had transformed more than mobility. It had transformed her life. Later, Jake had Emma try the wheelchair's nighttime features. LED lights illuminated the path with subtle brilliance, ensuring visibility without drawing excessive attention. The sleek design made it look futuristic, yet it remained practical. Emma practiced cautious driving in the fading light, appreciating how Jake had balanced style, safety, and usability. She realized that this was no ordinary wheelchair. It was a tool of independence, adventure, and self-expression. For the first time in years, she didn't feel limited or dependent. She felt capable, confident, and thrilled to explore the world on her own terms. It was liberating. By evening, Emma had mastered the basics and began experimenting with more advanced maneuvers. Jake watched with pride as she navigated around tight corners, handled minor obstacles, and even tried gentle inclines. She laughed freely, her joy infectious. The wheelchair had become an extension of herself, responding intuitively to her commands. Emma felt exhilarated, confident, and deeply grateful. Jake, exhausted but satisfied, knew he had created more than a machine. He had given someone the gift of freedom, excitement, and empowerment. Emma's transformation, both physical and emotional, was now undeniable, and the bond between mechanic and rider had grown stronger. As the day ended, Emma parked the wheelchair beside the garage, her hands lingering on the joystick for a moment longer. She turned to Jake, eyes shining with gratitude and awe. "I don't even know how to thank you," she whispered. Jake smiled humbly, brushing off the praise. "You did all the work. Just believe in yourself," he said. Emma realized he was right. The wheelchair had unlocked more than speed. It had unlocked courage, independence, and a renewed sense of possibility. She knew her life would never be the same. The journey wasn't over, but with Jake's innovation and her determination, Emma's world had expanded exponentially. Emma sat on the driveway, feeling the evening breeze brush her face as she ran her hands over the sleek frame of her mini supercar wheelchair. What had started as a broken, frustrating device was now a symbol of independence and excitement. She thought back to the helplessness she once felt and smiled, realizing how far she had come. Each ride was a reminder that obstacles could be transformed into opportunities. Jake had given her not just a machine, but a chance to reclaim her freedom. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and empowerment, knowing her life had truly changed. Jake stood nearby, adjusting a minor calibration on the joystick. But his attention was more on Emma's joy than the technical details. He had spent hours, days, and nights perfecting the wheelchair, but seeing her confidence was the real reward. Emma's laughter echoed through the quiet California suburb, drawing curious neighbors to their fences. Some waved, some whispered admiration, but all were captivated by the unusual sight. A young woman expertly maneuvering a futuristic wheelchair that combined mobility, speed, and style. For Jake, it was validation. His creativity and skill had a real, tangible impact on someone's life. As the days passed, Emma explored her town like never before. She visited parks, cafes, and local streets, often drawing attention and admiration. The wheelchair's smooth performance allowed her to tackle previously inaccessible areas, like steep ramps and narrow sidewalks. Jake had designed it for safety as much as thrill, and Emma trusted it completely. Each outing strengthened her independence and social confidence. She began interacting with neighbors and classmates more freely, no longer hesitant or embarrassed by her mobility. The wheelchair had become an extension of herself, enabling a life that once seemed impossible. Freedom was no longer a dream, it was a daily reality. Emma's parents watched with relief and pride. Their daughter, once cautious and withdrawn, now radiated confidence and joy. Her transformation was not just physical but emotional. She laughed freely, made plans independently, and even started talking about future adventures she had once deemed impossible. The wheelchair, with its elegant design and advanced technology, had unlocked a new chapter in Emma's life. Jake occasionally visited to help fine-tune or customize features, but increasingly, Emma could handle minor adjustments herself. The collaboration between mechanic and rider had evolved into mutual respect and a shared excitement for innovation and possibility. Jake introduced Emma to some optional advanced features. Small accelerations, suspension tweaks, and LED display functions allowed for safer and more exhilarating rides. Emma practiced navigating challenging paths, learning to balance speed and control, gaining skill and confidence. The wheelchair became not only her mobility aid, but a playground for mastering maneuverability. Friends and neighbors who saw her in action often expressed admiration, asking questions about the technology and design. Emma's story began spreading through social media, inspiring others with her independence and Jake's ingenuity. What had been a private transformation was now becoming a source of motivation and inspiration for the community. One evening, Emma and Jake decided to venture beyond the neighborhood. They visited a nearby park where smooth paths intertwined with grassy patches. The wheelchair handled everything seamlessly, and Emma felt the pure exhilaration of unrestricted movement. She zipped around trees, glided over soft grass, and even explored gentle slopes without hesitation. The joy of mobility was amplified by the sense of control and responsiveness. Jake observed closely, ensuring her safety while giving her the freedom to explore. Their teamwork had become a fluid, unspoken understanding, balancing engineering precision with human courage and creativity. Emma's confidence soared with every turn. News of Emma's extraordinary wheelchair spread further, attracting attention from local journalists and bloggers. They marveled at Jake's craftsmanship and Emma's skill, highlighting the innovation and creativity behind what seemed like a simple mobility device. Emma handled the attention with grace and excitement, demonstrating her newfound independence to curious onlookers. Each interview, photo and video shared inspired others facing mobility challenges, showcasing how innovation and determination could change lives. The wheelchair was more than a machine. It was a symbol of possibility, hope, and empowerment, demonstrating that obstacles could be overcome with creativity and heart. With each passing week, Emma grew bolder. She experimented with speed settings, cornering, and even minor stunts in safe, controlled spaces. The wheelchair had become part of her identity, a reflection of her personality, energy, and resilience. Jake continued to provide guidance and adjustments, but Emma's skills were now impressive enough that she often took the lead in testing new features. Their collaboration had shifted from teacher-student to partners in exploration. The community watched in awe as she demonstrated control, balance, and precision, inspiring admiration and curiosity. Emma felt a sense of mastery over her world she had never experienced before. As Emma's confidence grew, she began imagining future possibilities, traveling independently, participating in adaptive sports, and even inspiring others through storytelling and demonstrations. The wheelchair was no longer just a tool. It was a gateway to adventure, learning, and social connection. Jake's ingenuity had created more than a machine. He had provided a bridge to opportunities that had once seemed out of reach. Emma realized that her journey of empowerment was only beginning. The wheelchair was the catalyst, but her determination, courage, and joy were what truly drove her forward. She felt unstoppable, ready to explore her life with newfound vigor. By the end of part 3, Emma parked the wheelchair beside the garage, her eyes glinting with excitement and satisfaction. Jake approached, wiping sweat from his brow, proud but humble. "You've mastered it," he said, a genuine smile on his face. Emma laughed, tears of joy forming as she realized how far she had come. "I feel free. Like I've finally got my life back," she whispered. Jake nodded, knowing the truth in her words. The broken wheelchair was gone, replaced by a creation that empowered, exhilarated, and transformed a young woman's life. Together, they had proven that ingenuity, care, and determination could turn limitations into extraordinary possibilities.